Hello, 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 chat. How's everybody doing out there? Welcome to the stream, friends. Welcome to Advent of Code 2024, day 10. Yesterday we had fun with arrays, and then I had to duck out because I had to go and do the pub quiz. Well, the good news is that I won the pub quiz. And then I came home and I completed Advent of Code, but I decided not to do it on the stream because winning the pub quiz involves quite a lot of beer. And, because otherwise you might get all tense and not be able to get the answers right. And so, so I had a little look, and it turned out that classic example of getting tangled up in knots by trying to write code that was actually not it should have been dumber. Let me show you what we got with that. Let me have VS Code here and switch the views across, and we'll take a look, and I'll just show you what I ended up with in yesterday's solution. And where were we? We were. Yeah, tell it's busy when you go into VS Code and the list of the 5 recent projects doesn't include the thing you were doing literally at midnight. So yeah, day 9, the solution actually ended up being the first part took a lot longer than the second part, because when I ran this on the real input, what I discovered is that part 1 took I think part 1 was about 8 seconds, and then part 2 was milliseconds, like 600 milliseconds. And it just turned out to be the gnarly part with the arrays is always the off by 1 errors. And 11 seconds for part 1 and then 700 milliseconds for part 2. Let's run that again, because yesterday was quicker than that, and I want to see if it's still going to be quicker than that. Hey Christian, welcome. How you doing? So, it turned out that the defragment thing basically is first thing that I'd missed was you got to take a copy, because once you start moving things around, you shouldn't be examining the modified array to look for the next block to be moved. You need to look at the original array, the one that hasn't been modified, one that hasn't changed. And so I did a blocks.to array, which just kind of takes a snapshot of it. And then you just start at the end, and you move, that one moves backwards until you find a file, and then you leave that one there, and then start another one, that gives you the file, and then the move file if you can here. That's a little tiny bit gnarly, but hey Aquaviva, welcome to the stream, friend. How you doing? And so and that was that one. And I don't like arrays very much. Today's only one part. Most probably you solved 2 before 1 by accident. I've seen a couple of folks saying that today is a classic, what you do will solve part 2, but it won't solve part 1. But I've not looked at today's yet, because I always think it's more fun if I don't look at it in advance. And it's kind of weird, because there's days where I look at it, we'll do a little thing on the stream, and then I'll run out of time, and I'll go out for a walk or something, and while I'm walking around the park, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's how you do it, and I'll come back and I'll do it. So the contrast is kind of interesting. But anyway, so there we go. We got 9 for 9. Well, 18 for 9, 2 stars per day. So let's take a look at day 10. Hoof it. You all arrive at a lava production facility on a floating island in the sky. As the others begin to search the massive industrial complex, you feel a small nose boop your leg. You got booped. Booped by a nose. Hello, Fig Y, Fig I, Fig L, Fig 1. Fig, I should really have my chat in a monospaced font with programming ligatures so that the things are not visually ambiguous. Boop! We got booped by a reindeer wearing a hard hat. The reindeer is holding open a book. Lava Island Hiking Guide. You discover most of it seems to have been scorched. As you're about to ask, I know the reindeer brings you a blank topographic map of the surrounding area. Oh, look. Oh, it's a map. It's a map of heights. Hello, Fig. Just Fig. Cool. All right. Hello, Just Fig. All right. A good hiking trail is as long as possible and has an even gradual uphill slope. For all practical purposes, that means that our hiking trail is any path that starts at 0, ends at 9, and increases by exactly 1 at each step. All right. Hiking trails never include diagonal steps, only up, down, left, right. Okay, so north, south, east, west, increment by 1. A trailhead is any position that starts one or more hiking trails. That sentence doesn't matter. So here, these positions will always have a height 0, and... all right. So a trailhead's score is the number of 9 height positions reachable from that trailhead via a hiking trail. Hello, Blue Tonic. Yes, put down the blazer. In the above example, a single trailhead has a score of 1 because it can reach a single 9. This trailhead has a score of 2. Okay. That trailhead there has a score of 4 because it can reach that 9, that 9, that 9, and that 9, but it can't reach that 9. That one, yep, and okay, so we gotta find all the zeros, find the number of 9s you can get to from the zeros, and add up the number of 9s you can get to from all the zeros to get the sum of the scores of the trailheads. Fruity! Alright, let's do this. Day 9. Usernames must be at least 4 characters and no spaces, says Fig. Yeah. You know, I'm just going to do one little thing. So you see, I got this long thing here, Advent Code Day 2024, little GitHub thing there. I'm going to tweak that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to code my $profile. So this is the thing called ohmyposh, and my ohmyposh config file is here. So I'm going to open my ohmyposh config file, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a special case for when I'm working on Advent code so that it doesn't use up quite so much of the width of the console display. So there we go. Mapped locations is here. And I think if I put in D projects, GitHub, Dylan Beatty, Advent of Code 2024, and I do that, and then I come over here and I do $profile. Cool. All right, so now that entire thing is shortcutted down to AOC, and you know what? I think I can probably make it even shorter if I do a one of those. Come on. Where is the little magic thing that there we go. Do you think this will work? There we go. Sweet. It's all right, I haven't started typing anything yet. There we go, transition that. All right. Hello. So yeah. All right, cool. So now when you see little Christmas tree, it means that I am in D Project GitHub Dylan Beatty Advent Code 2024. And there are all the days. And let's do a .NET new console -0 day 10. And there is day 10. Yeah, we haven't started yet. I've read through the problem. We got to do some gnarly, interesting stuff involving trailheads. And yeah, should be fun. So, right. So that's our example, and this one, the sum of the scores of all the trailheads is 36. So that one should yield 36. So let's jump over into our code. I can close that. And let's open VS Code on our whole Advent of Code thing. And let me just do one little piece of preamble. And sling that over there, and that should be fine. And all right. Oh yeah, this was my monkey poem about elephants that solved the one with the elephants and the monkeys. Do you what? No. Did I? What? No. I didn't make any changes yet. Okay, I'm sure it's fine. Day 10, program.cs. So right-click, new file, example.txt. Boom, there we go. There's our example. So we're gonna do hello, Jivan Pal. Merry Tuesday to you too. So var grid equals. I can copy and paste this from previous days, but file.read all lines example.txt. And then we are going to take each line in there and we're going to select line goes to line.to char array. But actually we could do line goes to line.select, and we take each character for that and we go C goes to, and we can do the donkey -0 will give us that, and that will cast that, and that will cause that being an int. Line goes to line.select that dot to array. Boom, dot to array. And there is our two-dimensional grid. And just to check we got the right thing, for each var line in grid, for each var cell in line, console.write, string interpolation, ding, cell, boom, 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 cell, all right, console.write line, boom, 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 .NET run. Yes. All right. Cool. Grid puzzle works. That's cool. All right, that's in. All right. What are we going to do now? Let's all right, we're going to find the zeros. So trailheads. So what do we want to know? So for each trailhead, we want to know how many different nines we can get to just by finding the trails, which means so we got our grid, and we got to say, all right, so that's a 0, and if a 0 is a 1 and a 1, this is like giving me horrible flashbacks to Minesweeper. So that's a 0, which means we can get to those ones, which means we can get to that 2 in 2 different ways, but we only care about the number of 9s we can get to. So I don't think we need to worry about the fact that you can get to that in a couple of different ways. So all right, we'd only go north, south, east, west, which is fine. And pick one of the smaller examples first, easier to follow. So, oh, you have to care about all the paths, not that there is a path. Do you? Because I thought you just had to see how many 9s you can get to. It's different 9s. So that trailhead has a score of 1 because it can reach a single 9. Yeah, you're counting 9s. So if we had a grid that looked like this... oh, hang on. So we got a 0, and then a 1, 2, 3, and then a 1, 0. What do we got? So that's a 4, and then we got a 2, and a 5, and a 3, and a 6, and a 4, 5, 6. And that actually needs to be more like this. 4, 5, no, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so if we had this one here, so in that instance, that trailhead there gets you to that 9 in 2 different ways, but there's only one 9. So, so my understanding is use complex numbers as grid coordinates rather than a list of lists. Nah, we're good. You shouldn't use complex numbers unless you're drawing fractals. All right, so we're counting all the different 9s. Or rather, we are counting the trailheads. So the score of a trailhead is the number of 9s you can get to by going dip, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So for each 0, we want to find the number of trailheads that you can reach. And so this feels to me like it's recursive, because you want to start out with a, yeah, you count the 9s that can be reached from a 0. Or do you? Let me just check the example here. So that trailhead has a score of 2 because you can get to 2 different 9s. That trailhead has a score of 4. And that one there, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that one there, this map has a score of 3, even though it only contains 2 9s. Because that 9 counts once for that trailhead and once for that trailhead. So, yeah, if a 9 can be reached for 2 zeros, it counts for both of them. So it's the scores for it's the zeros that we want. All right. So what we want to do here is we want a... hello, Tom. Hello, DKW. All right, so let me think for a second. We got the 9s, which means that we want... So recursive approach here would be that if you're looking at a 9, you're done. Otherwise, you want to count the number of 8s that are next to you. And if you're looking at an 8, you want to count the 7s. And if you... No, that's the wrong way around. Yeah. Fruity. All right. Let's find the trailheads. So for each var cell in line, of course, this is the dumb thing where we can do a select in .NET, but there isn't a for each with index, which is annoying because there should be, because I want to be able to do this. Can I do that? Int does not contain a definition for deconstruct. Oh, can we? So Max1 says I created a map of position maps to position plus height. All right, let's just work it out. We'll start throwing code at the problem until we see something that looks like a good idea, and then we'll work forward from there. So let's start by finding all the trailheads. So let's do a for var row equals 0. Row is less than grid.length, row plus plus. Is it always a square? I mean, we can't really rely on it always being a square, but we can rely on it being a rectangle, right? Don't overthink today's. Okay. Length, col plus plus. All right. If grid row col equals 0, then that is part of a trailhead, isn't it? So let's have a list of int trailheads equals a new one of those, which I think can just be one of those now in .NET. Trailheads.add, and we'll add row col. Boom, boom, done. Yes, thank you. All right, so now we got all the trailheads. So now what we're going to do is for each trailhead, we want to count the 9s, right? A recursive function that takes a coord and a target, and for each recursion you add 1 to the target until you get to 9, when it returns how many 9s it found all the way back up the stack. Yeah. All right, I'm going to ignore the chat for a few minutes because lots of people have got lots of good ideas, and I don't have one idea yet, other than let's start working things through and seeing how it goes. So what do we got to do here is, let's say, so for each var th in trailheads. So what do we got to do? We got to look at the surrounding thing. So this is always going to be a 0. There's this whole thing you get into where it's like, I just want to go up, down, left, right, but you can't because array boundaries and up and that and that is not going to work. Right. So we pick one of those. Okay. Democracy is the worst possible system of government apart from all of the others. Welcome to my benevolent dictatorship. Okay. So let me try this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to write a function that takes a var peaks, and what this is going to take is it is going to take a we'll stick it as an static class grid extensions. Static int find peaks is going to take a int row int col pair, and it is gonna take an int height. And what we are gonna do with this one is we are gonna see how many of the adjoining, so we give it a row col pair, so that's our target, right? And a height. And do we need to give it a height? We will initially, but never mind. So we're looking for 9s. So what I want to do here is, and we'll need to put the grid in as well. So this int dum grid, there's that one. So if right, don't overthink it. Int peaks equals 0. If row is greater than 0 and a grid row -1 col row greater than 0 equals 9 peaks plus. If row is less than grid.length, this is the whole like, row +1 is less than grid.length, and a grid row +1 col equals 0. Yeah, I was just thinking we could just put -1s all around the edge of the grid. But actually, there's probably a slightly better way of doing this, which is static int or static bool static int at this int dim grid int row int col. So this is going to say if row is greater than 0 and col is greater than 0 and row is less than grid.length and row col is less than grid row.length, return grid row col, otherwise return -1. Oh no, something has gone horribly wrong. Why is it ignoring my editor config? That has just formatted the code in the bad way. So that should be in the, yeah, that is in the Advent of Code editor workspace. All right. This is going to drive me nuts. Wait a second. I got to fix that. Otherwise, this is just going to be miserable. Or has Visual Studio Code just got horribly confused about what my editor config is doing? Come on. Yes, there is. I've got the .NET language kit installed. There it is. You can see it. It's there. Sadness. Great sadness. All right, we are going to have to just ignore the fact that there are... Like, look at that, little bright. It's got a whole line to itself. That's how important it is. And so's that one, and so's that one. You're not important. You're just opening a block. That's literally all you're doing. You don't get a line to yourself. Every one of those lines represents 1/25th of what I can see. And I have to be able to see stuff because I can't remember it all. Yeah. All right. It's just gone wrong. There will now be a brief pause while we reflect on why estimating how long it will take to write a certain piece of software will never be anything other than guesswork, because there you are happily typing away and your computer goes, no, we know you had settings yesterday. No, no more, not allowed. So let me go into, so that's my editor config. That's good, that works, we like that. Let me get one from a project that I know is nice. Projects, GitHub, there we go. There's top secret stuff on that screen you're not allowed to see, that's why I'm looking over there. There is an editor config file. There is Advent of Code. Paste that in there. Replace the file in the destination. There is an editor config. Let us try that again. Delete that one. Format document with configure default formatter C#. All right, if I do a .NET format, well, that's broken as hell. See, that fixed it. And .NET format respects editor config. So, what are you writing and what language are you writing it in? I am doing Advent of Code Day 10 in C#. And having fun and games. All right. So, and peaks equals 0. If grid.at row -1 col equals 9, peaks plus plus. Row -1 row +1 col -1 col +1 yep, okay. Oh, that's screwed that up again. The other fun thing I've been doing in the last 24 hours is reporting to Microsoft that Microsoft software compiled with Microsoft software using GitHub, which is owned by Microsoft, using Microsoft code, is falsely recognized as a Trojan by Microsoft Windows Defender, because the latest binary builds of Rockstar are given warnings if you download them in Chrome, and that was a lot of fun. Right, static class grid extensions. Let's move that into its own file. Okay, something is seriously broken here. I know what's happened, I think. Let me close that. Let's open code in day 10. A Christmassy rhyme for jungle. No idea what's going on. Right, we're going to spend about 5 seconds looking at this. C#, yes. Uninstall, yes. Uninstall that. Bye-bye. C#, restart extensions. There we go. C# dev kit. Install. Yes, please. Thank you very much. That should be in and working now. That's lovely. Let's rebuild that, and that's screwed everything up again. I despair. Welcome to the jingle, baby. All right, well, that at least has now given me move to grid extensions.cs. Okay, so grid extensions.cs, that is complaining about int row, int col target. So that actually will have int row, int col to int height. So that is that one. And never had a positive. Yeah, I generally find VS Code is pretty good. It's light and it's fast and it mostly does the right thing. I normally go for Visual Studio when I'm doing anything like chunky, but Advent of Code Day 10 shouldn't be chunky, not yet. It should still be relatively. The way I often think of it is VS Code is like driving a go-kart. It's kind of small and it's fast and like, yay, it's fun. But then you open up full Visual Studio and you're like, well, it's not quite so snappy, but wow, this is comfortable. It's like getting back in your car after you've been go-karting. So let's grab that, return peaks. So what that's gonna do is it's gonna find a bunch of stuff. And so okay. Look at that, it's just magically fixed itself. It's formatting properly now. All right, where the hell was I? Right, so what we were looking to do is we were looking at a recursor. Any opinions on JetBrains IDEs? Yes, they are very, very, very good indeed. JetBrains are a lovely company who make amazing software. I just haven't quite made the switch yet to using Rider instead of Visual Studio Code, mainly because there is a plugin I use for Rider instead of Visual Studio, mainly because there's a plugin I use for Visual Studio on Windows called NCrunch, which has only just become available on Rider and only on Windows. So I tend to stick to VS Code for cross-platform stuff. Right. So, if the cell we are looking at is an 8, then we want to count the 9s. If it's not, we want to count the 9s of our neighbors, right? So if height equals 8. So all the folks in the chat going, don't overthink it. I may be underthinking it. No. No. What we want to do is we want to do if grid.at_row col equals 9, and it's 9, not 9, it's not a character. So if that equals 9, then return 1. Otherwise, we want to return the find peaks for the neighbors. Do we? Yeah, head empty, no thoughts. Ginger brain still just going. All right, so if grid at row and column equals 9, then return 1. It means we found one. Otherwise, we want to return return find peaks. Do we even need the height? Yeah, two-dimensional recursion. My brain is just not in the right space for doing two-dimensional recursion today. So grid.find peaks, that plus you must only check neighbors that are exactly one higher or one lower for reverse. So if yeah, okay, so if we're looking at a cell, we want to yeah, we need to sum the returns, which you get in the recursion. But you want to ignore any cell. Yeah. So 1 to 2 to 8, 7 are okay. 1 to 3, 9. So you want to skip the jumps. So we need to say, all right, let me naughty this in a really clunky way. So if grid at row column equals 9, return 1. If grid dot at row plus 1 call, so var me equals where I am. That's my cell. That's the value in the current cell that I passed into the function. If the cell equals 9, we just return 1 because there's no point looking any further because we found a peak. Okay. Then if grid at row plus 1 call equals cell plus 1, we need to sum 4 things, don't we? So var peaks equals 0, peaks plus equals grid dot find peaks row plus 1 call. Yeah. So that's row plus 1, row minus 1, and then do the thing, and do the thing, and do the, that's row plus 1, that's row minus 1, that's row col minus 1, col plus 1. So those give us the 4 cardinal directions. Yeah, north, south, east, west. So that then gives us that and return peaks. All right, so then I think what I want to do, if cell equals 9, return 1, peaks equals 0, that returns that plus that plus that. Should be row col plus, so thank you very much. There must be a nicer way of doing this. Okay, never mind. Col minus 1 plus 1. Yeah, sorry, yeah. Minus 1 plus 1. So that one should be minus plus as well, because let's at least be consistent. so we don't confuse ourselves on line 6 of an 18-line program. Typo in the last statement. Oh yeah, this is the thing where the people on YouTube tell me about the mistake 10 seconds after someone on Twitch has already told me about it and I fixed it. Row 8 and 9 left and right don't match. So row col minus col minus col minus col plus minus minus plus plus. I think that's now all right. If there are still mistakes in it, the compiler will find them. All right, so there's all our trailheads. And so then what I want to do is for each var th in trailheads. So what do we got here? We've got var score. Yeah, YouTube has a lot of lag. If you switch over to Twitch, the latency is a lot lower. It's considerably better. So var th in trailheads, grid.find peaks should kick in. Yeah, that needs to be public. And that needs to be public, and that needs to be public maybe. Grid.find peaks, and row and column th, except th is a tuple, so let's make that take a tuple instead. So that's there's that, except now that all gets so anyone wants to jump ship onto Twitch, twitch.tv/DylanBT. There. Can you do a spoiler intervention? Not yet. I want to watch this fail first. You may sit and enjoy me learning from my own horrible mistakes. And so grid.find peaks, th dot so var peaks equals 0. Peaks plus equals that. Right, so what are we looking at? We're on example.txt, which is that one there. We'll .NET run that and see if it works. I'm expecting an infinite loop because writing recursion in 2 dimensions, 23. Oh, that's interesting. 36 is the correct answer. Right, so what did we... Let's start with a tiny, tiny little one. So let's start with that one there. Let's go into our example.txt, drop that in there, .NET run that. Naught. Okay, so that definitely didn't work. Why not? Right, so let's figure out what we got going on here. Yep. 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 Okay. The tiny thing has a non-obvious property. Okay, hang on. That's a good amount of clue. That's going to return a 1, and that's going to return a 1. No, that... Moved to Twitch, forgot my login, came back. Alright. So if you bring up Twitch and YouTube side by side on the same screen, you will clearly see the difference in the amount of latency on the two channels. But I got like a... Yeah, you want the number of peaks you can get to, not the number of routes to the peak. And so what I need to do then for a given trailhead is keep a count of... Yeah. Okay, so find peaks is going to take an accumulator. It's going to take a hash set of int row, int col as well. So that's going to be where we gather all the stuff we've got. So let's call that peaks. So if cell equals 9, then yeah. So let's throw in a hash of the peaks that we found. So if cell equals 9, then peaks.add row col. All right, so that drops into there. What's that complaining about? And so that happens, and then we return, but we do not actually need to so this ain't gonna return int anymore. It's gonna return, what's it gonna return? It's not. It's gonna populate a hash set. So it's not actually gonna do anything. We give it a hash set, it fills it with stuff. What is that complaining about? Cannot use local variable peaks before it is declared. Oh, yeah, I'm stupid. Yeah. So now those come out. That comes out. We pass peaks into all of those. And we don't give back anything. And what does peaks.add do here? That returns a bool. So yeah, all right. Can you join hash sets with unions and return them like in Python? Is that hash set accessible to recursive calls? It is if I pass it into the recursive calls. So there we go. So there's our find peaks. So that's on there. So now what I got to do is I got to say var peaks equals new hash set of int row int col. So there's that. That's the dumb. Yep. Okay. And then for each one of those, we're gonna populate that. So except no, hang on. No. That needs to be new because each trailhead has its own set of peaks. So grid.findPeaks is that. Let's call that hash. Peaks equals 0. Hash equals a new hash set of that. That goes into hash. And then peaks plus equals hash.count. And then console.writeline that. So what are we going for here? That one there should return 1. The tiny thing should return 1, and it returns 0, because of course it does, because what? All right. Console.writeline, searching from, and let's just dollar that, and we are searching from th.row, th.col. Just check we are actually picking up the right trailheads here. Searching from 0, 0. All right. The tiny thing shouldn't return 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The tiny thing should return 1. There's only one 9 in here, and it's reachable. There is a single trailhead, and that trailhead can get you to one peak, albeit by multiple routes. The single trailhead has a score of 1. Yeah, there's only one 9 on there. Yeah, so that's just 1. So that should be returning 1. Okay, so that's that. So what I want to do now is let me go into my grid extensions here, and I'm just gonna make this return bool purely so I can return peaks.add that, so I can get rid of an additional line of nesting in there, and we'll return false from the end of the thing. So that iterates into peaks. Peaks is empty. Cell equals grid at row column. If that's 9, and so row plus 1, cell equals grid at that. So cell should be 0. And I'm going to throw in one more hash set in here. Hash set of, and this is going to be int row int col visited equals that. And I don't think I can do that because that is going to say it must be a compile time constant. And a new empty hash is not a compile time constant. And that's not gonna work because declare it as nullable. All right, so visited equals that. So initialize a new one of those if we need them. Yeah, visited may be null. Yeah? All right. Hello, Imperial Squid. Welcome to Twitch. So what are we doing in here is we're saying if, so if we've already been here, I'm optimizing prematurely actually. Let's get it working, then we can make it faster. So we don't need that. We don't need that. But what we do need to do is to figure out why this thing is not finding anything. Yeah. So let's just throw in a little bit of donkey magic here. Where's the code which starts the walk? So the code that starts the walk is here. We find all the zeros in the map. And then for each one of those, we say grid.findPeaks from the trailhead row column, and we pass in an empty hash that should get populated with things as we go along. So console.writeLine found peak at, and we'll say in here, what do we got? Row call, let's dollify that. Boom, and there's that. Okay. So that never finds anything. Stupid. Stupid, 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 stupid. You can look at 0, 0 on an array. You just can't look at length, length. There, boom. Found it. All right. Oh, man. Zeros. Stupid zeros. We hate it. Stupid hobbitses. Right. There. Boom. Let's run that through again. So there's that given back 1. So let's try that on the slightly gnarlier example. So that trailhead has a score of 2. So let's example.txt, paste that in there, and this is going to this is an input that ain't gonna work, isn't it? Yeah. You can't feed that one in because it's got dots in it, and the dots aren't going to work when we try and pass them into ints, so we're not going to get a solid map of grids. You must add to ignore dot, but what do I turn dot into? Just replace the dot with 5. Why 5? Will 5 help? YOLO ain't going to work. YOLO did no. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. All right. Cool. It just gives you negative ints because it coerces it into a character and then subtracts the character code for 0. All right. 2. Is 2 the correct answer? Yes, 2 is the correct answer for that one. That has a score of 2. This has 2 trailheads, so this one should return 3, right? Okay. Larger example should return 36. 36. All right, time to take out the donkey debugging and run the real input and see what we get. Where's code gone? Code has gone there. All right, so we have, that is all fine. So this one there, let's just take that out and comment out that, and that one we just, to be consistent, that is part 1. And var sw equals new stopwatch sw.start. Yep. Boom. Grab system.diagnostics. Yep, that's cool. Pull that in there. sw.start. And console.write part 1 brackets term sw.elapsed milliseconds ms, just because I'm curious. All right, where's my puzzle input? Get your puzzle input. Oh, that's not so bad. Look, it doesn't even scroll. That's not big data. We are looking in GitHub, Dylan BT, Advent Code 2024, day 10, input.txt. Boom. You gotta ask yourself one question, folks. Do we feel lucky? $489. And that is the right answer. Continue to part 2. The reindeer spends a few minutes reviewing your hiking trail and finally returning the tip. Okay. Yeah. The number of distinct hiking trails. All right. All right. So find trails returns an int. If that equals that, return 1. Otherwise, this is looking, yeah, this has just taken the hash back out. um, we don't need that. That comes out. That is there. All right, and I think that means sw.restart. And part 2 equals 0, part 2 plus equals grid.findTrails. Well, that was difficult. Oh, beautiful. All right. Cool. There we go. Right, so that can come out. We don't need that. There we go. Also, you see how that ran in 0 milliseconds? Computers got fast, yo. Yeah. This could be neater, but who's keeping track? All right. Apparently we don't need that. Well, that's nice. Okay, let's push that to GitHub. Git add dot and then git commit -m day 10 done. Parts 1 and 2 in C# and git push. All right. Yeah. After you've done Advent code for a couple of years, you kind of get into the habit. That's why day 8 was kind of so many people got upset by that, is because a diligent reading of the problem gave you the wrong understanding, because it was just really badly worded, and the examples didn't match the description, and people who trusted the description did the wrong thing. Cool. Right. So I was going to look at some Rockstar stuff today, but there's an outstanding bug on the Rockstar backlog that might make an interesting little rabbit hole to go down for half an hour or so, because let me show you the problem, and we can see what we think about this. So if I go to code with... Actually, before I do that, let's see if Microsoft has fixed the dreadful bug thing. So let's go to github.com/rockstarlang/rockstar and go to releases. Was that intentional? No, Surly, we do not think it was intentional. No. If you look at Advent code day 8, no, it didn't. It didn't. This sentence here, an antinode occurs at any grid position exactly in line with at least 2 antennas of the same frequency. That is not correct, because that, to me, says that anywhere you've got two things in a line, every single thing along that diagonal. So if you take this example here, actually maybe there's ambiguity in the problem. So okay, so just to go down the rabbit hole a little bit here, the difficulty, the thing folks were complaining about, well, it's not just that it's fractional steps. If you had a grid that looks like this, so what did the thing look like for that one? It's dots, wasn't it? It's dots and noise. So let me go back and take a look at day 8. So we got dot 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 dot. All right, so let's say we've got an antenna here and an antenna here, right? Now, the exact wording of the problem in part 2 says that any grid position exactly in line with at least 2 antennas of the same frequency, regardless of distance. And so there is a legitimate reading of that explanation which says that that point and that point and that point, and I've messed up my example here, but you see what I mean? We've got all these points here. Now all of those points are on a straight line with those 2 antennae. But the actual solution to the problem was that it only happens when they are an exact multiple of the original distance between the antennae. Not a single input had an input that would do that. Well, okay. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't like it. It's one of the very few times I've seen actual ambiguity in Advent of Code. I'm now looking for diagonals in my puzzle input to see if there are actually any which would have tripped that that scenario. There might be. I don't know. 1, 2, 3. Nah. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So. Right, Advent Code to the side. Yes, I was going to do a bit of Rockstar today, but actually there's a thing at the top of the Rockstar issue stack which is quite significant, and so I'm going to spend the time having a little look at that on the stream instead of doing Advent Code in Rockstar today. So if we go to code with rockstar.com, now the problem that we're having is to do with what happens when you have nested arrays, because there is ambiguity in the thing. So let's... So if we say rock row 1 with 1, 2, 3, rock row 2 with 4, 5, 6, rock row 3 with 7, 8, 9, and then we're going to rock grid with row 1, row 2, row 3. And then if I debug grid, all right, so we built a 2-dimensional array. Now the problem comes, let's say we want to get at the number 5 that's in the middle of that. If we go shout grid at 0, 1 at 1, we get the number 5 come out. But if we said, let's say, let x be 1, let y be 1, shout grid at x at y, it doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work is that if we look at the parse tree for what comes back out of that, this is doing a nested lookup because the parser is picking up x at y, and that, because it's dynamically typed, x here, that suggests an array. That tells the parser, hey, x is an array. So I want you to go and look in x. I want you to get the thing that's inside x at element y. And so if I shout x at y, it's false because there's nothing there. So yeah, and so the difficulty is coming up with an unambiguous syntax that effectively gives you a way. So in a language like C or C sharp, in a language that wasn't a joke, it would be the difference between array at x at y and array at x at y. And you can kind of see how, like, both of those are space that out a little more. There. And so colloquially, like, if you imagine you're sat in a meeting with your colleagues and talking about, and like, oh yeah, it's array at x at y, and they'll be like, hang on a second, do you mean array at x at y or array at x at y? And because so much of Rockstar is based on the idioms from from sung English, this introduces a ambiguity in the syntax, and the problem is that the parser resolves the ambiguity in one direction when x and y are constants, because you can't have 1 at 1. That's not a thing, because 1 can never be an array. 1 is always 1. And so what I need to do is see if I can come up with a way of baking in some syntax for the language that fixes the problem. Now, just while we're doing that, let me go on to GitHub Rockstar lang Rockstar and see if Microsoft has fixed the problem that they thought Rockstar releases all contain viruses, because that was yesterday's fun and games. There is that one, and let's save that onto my desktop, and there we go. And cool. All right. They would appear to have fixed it. Excellence. So Lord Bowser has suggested array at x and y, but the problem with array at x and y is that x and y is a logical expression, because x and y is the Boolean conjunction of x and y, so and is already used there. Now, there is a thing in the Rockstar syntax that I think we may be able to reuse here, because when you call functions, so let's have a function takes x and y and z. Now you can use and in there, give back, giving x plus y plus z. All right, so shout function taking foo bar and baz. Let me sling that somewhere useful. So we've got concatenation. Now you can't do that, because that's going to say, whoa, hang on, not enough arguments, because it's going to take bar and baz and do a logical conjunction. But what you can do is you can say bar ampersand baz, that works. You can say bar and baz, like Guns N' Roses. You can say bar comma baz. So yeah, Oxford commas will work in this situation. You have to use the Oxford comma when you call a function, even though you don't have to use it when you declare a function. And the reason being that the function definition arguments they cannot be expressions. They have to just be simple, or they have to be variables. And so that doesn't give us this ambiguity. So what I want to see is if there's some way in the grammar that I can use the same function separators to denote the difference between. So what I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to say, so array at x and y is effectively array x y, whereas array at x at y is going to be array at x at y. Spoken languages don't do deep nesting. It's unnatural. I'm trying to think of an interesting, like a spoken example of kind of deep nesting. But yeah, it doesn't really happen very much. Okay, so let me see if we can get this. So first thing is, can I get the parser to pick up that syntax? And if I can, then actually first let's write a test case for it. So the a language based around it. The problem with a parser, you can't write an ambiguous parser. For a parser to work deterministically, every single input has to resolve to exactly one output every time. You can't have parsers which YOLO it. And one of the weird things about Rockstar is because it uses expression grammar, there are certain things where one variant on syntax will satisfy a constraint in the grammar, but a very, very similar thing, like that array example we looked at, does something different if the things are expressions versus if they're literals. And so you get this weird, what looks like ambiguity, but actually it's completely deterministic. All right, so let me go into Rockstar test is here, programs, examples, arrays, and somewhere in here I think I should have nested arrays. Arrays of arrays.rock. So basically one of the nice things, one of the things I like about the way Rockstar was put together is all the test cases are also hot linked in the documentation as things you can actually run yourself. So if I spin up a terminal here and I'm just going to do a Z code with yeah, there we go, and we'll do a bundle exec Jekyll serve on that. Wouldn't almost any parser be deterministic? Yes. But I guess the question is, when you talk about grammatical correctness, it's not so much correct as consistent. You can absolutely build a consistent parser for something which is grammatically dreadful by the standards of written English, like in most languages. You don't say, maybe you do say, like, if it rains, I'll take an umbrella, else I'll take a hat. Like, English doesn't really use the word else like that. Do we? I don't know. Some people might. We say if or else, but then or is already taken for something, and we say otherwise. So Rockstar uses otherwise as well as else, so you can use either of those things. Right, so let me just check. I got my 2.0.11. That's out of date. So I'll spin up a window there. And let me just do a Z Rockstar and /build Rockstar WASM engine.ps1. Yeah, English or having the definition of XOR. It is a consistent trope of developer humor. Someone's like, do you want tea or coffee? Yes. Oh yeah, no. So Imperial Squid, one section, it just struck me as funny to put an Oxford comma in as a solution. So a lot of the stuff in Rockstar is me kind of scratching my head and going, how the hell do you fix this without bringing in something you can't sing, without putting in something that doesn't work as lyrics? And so things like Oxford commas and nactons and all those kinds of things get incorporated into the language grammar to give you flexibility, but they get incorporated in a very, very specific way. There we go, 2.0.14. That should be 1.5. Let me just pull that. Yeah, okay, and build the engine. All right, that's refreshed, that's refreshed, that's refreshed, that's reloaded. 2.0.15, all right, we're good. So if I go to the docs on here and I go to arrays, which is there, and somewhere in here there should be nested arrays, arrays of arrays, that's the example there. So, okay. So let's write the documentation first, because without documentation, it's just a stupid comedy language that doesn't make any sense to anybody. All right, arrays. So there are arrays of arrays, array arithmetic, popping elements. Yep, to initialize an empty array. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to document the feature I think I should be able to write. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to make it work first. Yeah. Yeah, so you can absolutely use commas and punctuation and all that kind of stuff if you can put it in the lyrics, but you wouldn't necessarily sing it out loud. So there we go. To do document ambiguous array indexes, but then I'm going to say Rockstar include arrays of arrays indexes.rock. Boom. All right, so that is now going to look for arrays of arrays indexes.rock. So I'm going to grab that file name. So do you know if anyone's put a work in Rockstar program to music? So Ducky Luke, who I think is in the chat right now, has been solving Advent code in Rockstar every day, and then I'm assuming using something like Suno AI to turn all of the programs into songs. Either that or Ducky Luke is a prolific songwriter, producer, and instrumentalist who is cranking out stuff on YouTube at a rate of knots every single day. But I think there might be some artificial intelligence involved in getting that done. Let me see if I can find... I've got a link to it in the Discord. I have put several Rockstar programs to music. I've occasionally been doing like keynotes for companies, and they've been like, can you write a Rockstar program about our company? And it's like, you want the company song, but you want it to compile, and okay, let's see what we can do with that. Yeah. Everybody has a price, you know? Yeah, there we go. And if I go into the Rockstar Developers Discord and find the Advent code thread, and yeah, visit site. Now, I'm assuming we're not going to get a copyright takedown for playing AI-generated music. Except I think my audio interface has fallen over sideways. But let me drop a link in that. You folks can go and play with that. But yeah, it's fun. These are all Advent code solutions, and all been set to music using Suno, and I love that that's happening. Anyway, right, so back to what we were looking at. So there's that. I was looking at arrays of arrays indexes, so we're going to grab that. And so I have a song about DMCA, which has never yet got a takedown request, because some things are so ironic they just won't happen. Right-click, add new file. Come on, new item. General text file, array of array indexes.rock. Copy to output directory, copy always. Somebody actually uploaded one of my AI advocates to their own channel. It's a song with 30 views, but they found it good enough to steal it. Well, you know, there are occasional... I live in a neighborhood where people often leave, like, garbage and furniture and stuff out in the street, like they fly tip it. And there is nothing in the world that is so crap that somebody won't steal it. Human beings are like, I don't care if it's garbage. Haha, I'm going to nick it because that's what I like to do. So, not that I'm passing judgment on any of your AI Advent of Code songs. I'm just saying that the quality threshold for theft is really not very high. Right, what are we doing? We are figuring out, so rock row 1 with 1, 2, 3, rock. Row 2 with 4, 5, 6. Rock row 3 with 7, 8, 9. That should be row 0, row 1, row 2, really, shouldn't it? Row 0, row 1, row 2. Rock grid with row 0, row 1, row 2. Grid is now a array of arrays. And so what do we want to do here is we need to print grid at 1 should print 5. But then print should make Rockstar 1 based just to really rebel against the man. No, 0 based is the one true path. 1 based arrays are wrong, very wrong. So now we want to, if we print grid at one at row 0. So this, okay, so this is what, so row 0 at 0 at row 0 at 1. That should print, so row 0 at 0 is 1, and row 0 at 1 is 2. That should print 6. This is convoluted enough that I'm actually, like, it's sort of baking my noodle, just figuring out what the problem looks like so we can start figuring out what the solution looks like. So, all right. Yeah. Right, let me see what that does right now. That's localhost. Okay, cool. So we're there. That's there. Hit try it. Bang that in there. Run that. All right, that's 5 mysterious. So what I need is an unambiguous way of saying Chad, I've been getting abuse on Reddit today for explaining why the ground floor is floor 0, not floor 1. Yeah. Well, the floor is the number of levels between you and the ground, right? So if you're on floor 0, there are 0 things between you and the beginning. If you're on floor 1, it means you've got to skip 1 floor to get to the one you're on. And there's a cocktail bar in central London whose address is 0 Aldwych, because it used to be a public lavatory, and it's next to the Lyceum Theatre, which was number 1 Aldwych. And then when they turned it into a bar, they're like, we need an address. And they're like, well, it doesn't have an address. It's a public toilet. And they're like, well, it's got to have an address. And they went, all right, 0 Aldwych. And they went, yeah, okay, that's us. We're 0 Aldwych now. And there's a -1 Priory Road in Newbury, but the name of the house is Minusone because they can't put -1 in any databases because it breaks all the things. So, okay, so let me see if we can figure this thing out. So let x be row 0 at 0. Let y be row 0 at 1. Print grid at x at y. Doesn't work. Print let thing be grid at x. Print thing at y. Okay, right. So we're getting somewhere. However, that there should not be, or should that be mysterious? Okay, so what I want is that will print mysterious because there's nothing there, but then we need this new syntax, which is print grid at x and y prints so that should be x, y is 1, 2, print 6. Okay, good. So there we go. So I want to see if I can extend the index of syntax to support that. So let's just plug in that that test syntax there. Oh, hang on, this ain't gonna work. It's gonna lead to a horrible ambiguity. Can I do that just to make this a one-liner? Yeah, there we go. The problem is function calls. The problem is that if we have a add takes x and y giving x plus y, so there's a function call, and so now we've got shout add taking grid at 0 at 0, grid at 1 at 1. Okay, so that adds 1 to 5. But then if we had a function syntax like that, so that's looking up indexes 0. Yep, that's looking up indexes at 1. So that should be doing the right thing. Except it's not doing remotely the right thing. Print indexes at 0. Let's get rid of that. Print indexes at 1. Okay, so we got a 0 and a 1. So print add taking grid at 0, grid at 1. Well, that's properly weird. Oh no, it's fine. Yeah, yeah. So grid at 0 actually gives you the first row of the array, and grid at 1 gives you the second one, and if you add two arrays together, you get array concatenation. Okay. So. Oh, wow. All right. So I need a new piece of punctuation. I need something that is not used anywhere in the Rockstar language syntax so that it can't possibly be ambiguous. Taking something at something by something. The semicolon is already in use. It's just arbitrary punctuation. You can use it to denote the end of a statement anywhere you need to, and so you don't have to have new lines in places you don't want a new line. So semicolon's already used as far as possible. Punctuation in Rockstar works the same way as punctuation in English does, because that way you can do stuff like that, and each one of those is effectively a sentence that ends with a punctuation mark. So what I need is a way of disambiguating something at something at something with something at something, comma, something, comma, something. What about a guitar tab in superscript? No, because one, superscript is hard to type. Two, it's hard to parse. Three, I have no idea what it would do to the encoding. And four, lyrics don't normally have tab unless you actually go out and buy tab. It's got to be something that just looks like lyrics. So array at a at x at y at z, and if we just hit the parse on that, yep. All right. So let's have a look at the language. What about by? Because that... Somebody else just got part 2 done first in one of the chats that I'm in. Actually, I'm going to just drop a link. Yeah. I think by might work. So array at x at y at z would be array at x, y, z. But then that one will be array at x, y, z. I mean, the other thing that could work is then. But yeah, I don't think we can reuse any of the function operators because that then leads to ambiguity. If your Natune says, do you think it is worth to learn Golang? Yeah, I think it's worth learning every language, at least to the point where you understand why that language exists, what it does well, what it's optimized for, or what its compelling use cases are. So array at x at y by z would be so array at x at y by z in this case would be array at x at y of z. No, array at x at y by z, and array at x by y at z would be array of x by y at z. Yeah. At y, sorry, it'll be that one, wouldn't it? So at always indexes, whereas by will always close the previous indexing expression and give you another one. I think. Yeah. Let's have a look at the grammar, see if we can figure out. So if I go to Rockstar, the peg file for it, okay. And let's find indices. All right. So this is the syntax that drives it. Is an index expression is just anything that is at a numeric expression. And yeah. It makes sense, but it takes some mental parsing. Yes, it does indeed. So what I'm thinking we can do here is right, so an index is exactly that. So then I think indexes, what I want to do in here is that an indexes expression, so something at something at something at something works exactly the same way that it normally does, because that's not going to change. That's the good thing, because that means we don't get any breaking changes. So right now, if you say parse that, it doesn't work. Okay, so now if you say array at x at y at z and you parse that, you get that one. But if you say array at 1 at 2 at 3, you get that one. So that's the ambiguity there. And so I think that's always gonna, because the alternative here is that yeah. Yeah, so I mean, this thing here, this is not quite right anyway. The debug expression on that is not correct. So let's just fix that first of all. So Array rockstar.engine.values, find the debug dump on the array thing there, because this thing here should So I think at and by give me enough to get cover the scenarios we need. Lookup expression variable.print indexes here is not doing quite the right thing. So indexes.any return that plus string.join. I think that should be that. Parse that. Okay, good. So that at least now is debugging the right thing. And yeah, so what the parser is doing here is it's left associative, I think is what they call it. So it's going, all right, array at what's this thing? Well, that's an x at what's this thing? Well, that's a y at z, okay. So we got z, that's y at z, which means that's x at y at z, which means that's array at x at y at z. Whereas this one here, it can't do the same thing. It can't, that syntax is not valid. So ooh, that broke something. Oh no, that's just my new test case that we're still working on. We're still working through the way that works. Okay, so let's take a look at the grammar, which is in rockstar.peg. So there's that. Now indexes. This is the thing. This is the syntax that says that indexes is either just one index, or it's a something at something at something at something. Okay, so let me introduce another rule into here, which is that an indexes can be a nested index, which is gonna be an I in new. Here. Yeah. All right, so we'll call this thing a. This is the x at y at z thing. Yeah, nested index is gonna return an I enumerable of expression. Is going to be one of those, but then an index is going to be an I enumerable. No, stop. Of I enumerable of expression, because one of these is either a head is a nested index followed by a that followed by followed by that followed by a tail, which is indexes. Recursion. So an index is always at something. So a nested index is either at something followed by at something followed by at something, or it is at something. So index is either at something at something at something by something, in which case it is going to be head dot concat tail, or it is the head is just a nested index, in which case it is going to be a new list of expression head. No. Yes. Because a nested index is an I enumerable. So that returns a list. So that, yeah, okay. Unexpected character, I. Okay, that's good. I think. The best. You know what? Those can just return the list. I think. that resolving the different types here, this thing needs to return one of those things. All right, the best overloaded add method, list expression. So head nested index. Nested index returns a list of, that needs to be a list of expression, because head is a list of expressions, so that'll give back one of these, which it wraps inside of one of those. Okay. Which means that needs to be an IEnumerable, because that's what concat is going to return, which means that probably needs to be an IEnumerable of an IEnumerable again. I think they call that contravariance, but I've never been entirely sure what contravariance is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So variable indexes is v.atIndex. So at index now in variable needs another overload on it, which is variable at index of an IEnumerable of expression. And so that takes one of those, takes one of those, takes one of those, takes one of those. Which means indexes in here needs to be a list of expressions. Which means if we pass in a single one, we just need to do that, which I think we can target type. Okay, cool. I like that. That's nice. So then if we pass in a list of those, what we want to do is that becomes indexes is a list of expressions. So if we pass in an IEnumerable expression, we can add that on the to list. But then if we pass in a one of those, we want to gnarly. Yeah. Weird. All right. Okay, good. Getting somewhere. Yep. That will come back to. Need to fix that. What else won't build here? IEnumerable expression does not contain concat. No, it does not. This is true because nested index Does not. Inumeral expression, parallel query, inumeral expression, inumeral expression. Yeah, so that's not it. All right, so that thing there is gonna say, what is a head? Head is a nested index. That is gonna return a IEnumerable of expression. Which means all right. Concat is a custom extension method. That's why the link stuff isn't working, because I wrote that. That wasn't part of the .NET thing. Okay, so we've got an IEnumerable of expression here. So that returns an IEnumerable of that, which means head here will be a extension method, except I'm not gonna put that on. There's the implementation that does, but that won't let me do this because head here is, so I think I need to make that a new list of something, and then okay, so now the grammar is valid, but the code won't actually run. But that's all right, we can figure that out. So the problem now is that set variable dot indexes. Oh boy. So variable is now a list of lists, because we've got the nested variables and we've got the other variables. So I'm gonna need a variable dot indexes. There. And now this is where the logic gets really entertaining in terms of what do we do to find the correct element on there. So we can, okay, right, so we can do something useful here. We can say, so variable to variable key switch. If it's an array, then array.set indexes, if indexes dot so if you're setting a string, indexes can only contain one thing. You can't do either indirect or multi-way indexing onto a string if the thing you're setting is one of those. So I just pushed the wrong key. Cortana in Windows as a standalone app is deprecated. Thank you, Cortana. So, right, what do we got? I'm going to take that set chart out. Because really that shouldn't be... Yep. Right, so that's that and that's that. If we simplify the things which do not accept multi-dimensional arrays. Okay, so there's that. That's that set charat. And then in environment, number n dot set bit. Yeah, so this is another thing that I threw in because, hey, you got to do something. If you assign a number at a point, it sets that bit of the number's numeric representation to be So what I think I want to do here is we're going to put an extension method on a list of values that will get the single numeric index, or it will throw an exception. So let me find somewhere in here, Rockstar Engine Values List Extensions. There's that one, there's that, there's that, there's that, there's that. Public static, I have a number. Get single numeric index or throw this list of value indexes. So what this is going to do is it is going to return var number equals indexes.single and that should throw otherwise. Yep, okay. Hmm. Right. No, that one's different. That one has the get single value, single numeric index or throw. That as indexes dot get single numeric or throw, and then array dot set. This is where we need to do something complicated with it. Public t set of t, and this is going to take an I list of value indexes t value, where all right. So all of that is what it takes to get to the point where we can now look at, try to build the thing, maybe, and get to the point where we can actually run some Rockstar code against it and see if it's going to blow up or not. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, that we probably want to come back to. Yep, all right. This is definitely that thing they talk about when they talk about covariance and contravariance. I can just never remember, A, which way round it's supposed to go. So we got an I list of I lists, but it's saying, well, a list of lists can't be an I list of I list because because it can't. All right, let me make those list extensions. So I'm actually gonna say that that just has to be a list of lists. And then array.set, we are going to modify that so that it takes a list of lists. And then we can worry about how to make the thing generic. Okay, so that's looking good. So we're down to one thing here. Cannot convert from... Yep, okay, so we got one type arguments cannot be inferred from the usage there, which is fine. So then value.atIndex here is going to need to take a different thing. So that's not an IEnumerable of value indexes anymore. This is going to be a list of value indexes. And then we're going to need to do some logic on that because... no, that one's fine. That one will still be an IEnumerable of value of indexes because at that point we should have handled all of the redirects. Marvelous, it built. Now what? Hey Mika, welcome. Trying to figure out two-dimensional array or ragged arrays of arrays in Rockstar and making entertaining progress. Right, so let me build a Rockstar WASM engine because what I want to be able to do is to run the parser on this thing and see what we get out the other side of it if we use that new syntax. And I think it's probably going to blow up. But let's take a look at... wow. Yeah, okay, so I broke a bunch of stuff, but that's all right. Yeah, it turns out it's interesting. Very interesting. Figuring out the exact way to make the logic on the thing boil down properly. I think I might have done this completely the wrong way. Both. Still trying to figure out a solution on making an implementation, but I think I might have got this completely wrong. Yeah, this shouldn't need to be pushed this far down into the interpreter. It should be doable entirely in grammar. Right, I'm going to shovel this in a branch and throw it away and start again. Where's my... There we go. Right, so get checkout -b broken array fix. Get add dot get commit -m horrible code that does not work. Get checkout main get reset -hard head hard head. Hello Adam, how you doing? There we go. Back over here, reload all the things, yes to everything, because I think we should be able to do this entirely in grammar. I don't think the interpreter actually should require any modification at all. Because the lookup expression variable of indexes should be able to all right, so lookup only ever takes a single index. Okay, so the reason why I've stopped it was Advent of Code. So we finished Advent of Code. I was going to do some Rockstar, do some Advent of Code in Rockstar, but then the thing that is currently the top of the Rockstar to-do list is the problem with ambiguity on two-dimensional arrays. So I thought it might be fun to take a look at that, and that was an hour and a half ago. And yeah, so what I want to figure out here is the you didn't miss much. I've thrown away the whole thing. Cool. All right, that's done. Right. So you've been gone for a while, but what I've just done is throw away all the stuff that I did in the last hour or so because I think there's a completely different way of doing it. Okay, so right, okay, so I didn't want to throw away that piece. So hang on, let me just go into array.rockstarengines.values, find a thing that does the printing on that. So no, it's in lookup. Lookup is where I needed to fix the debugging thing. Variable.print indexes. That should be this. I think. So in case you folks don't know about it, if you're interested in learning how to build compilers and things, there is a wonderful book, absolutely wonderful book, Crafting Interpreters by Robert Nystrom. And the whole thing is on the web and it's free, and kind of probably like 70% of all the stuff that I ever learned about how to design interpreters and build them and all that kind of stuff I got from reading through this. It's wonderful. It's very, very, very good. So check that out. Right, where were we? We were there. I just rebuilt that. We're going to refresh that. No, not that. That. No, not that. That's the internet. We don't want the internet. We want our thing. Control rebuild that. Hit pars on that. Okay, so let me just check that this does in fact do the right thing, because array at 1, at 2, at 3. So rock row 0 with 1, 2, 3, 4. Rock row 1 with 5, 6, 7, 8. Rock row 2 with 9, 0, 9, 10, 11, 12. Rock row 3 with 13, 14, 15, 16. All right. So now rock grid with row 0, row 1, row 2, row 3. And now let's rock nest with 1, 2 grid. So now if we debug nest, okay, so that's that. So let me just take a look at what the debug is doing on that, because it might be nice to make that a slightly more make that more intuitive syntax. I don't know. Okay, so now if we shout, actually let me make this slightly different. I'm going to make this A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. I wonder if I could just do that by shattering things. So why don't you understand, Mika, why it's passing at number correctly, but at variable in a different way? The reason why it's doing that is that 1 at 2 at 3, that has to be a, there's no way, like 2 at 3, that's not a lookup, all right? And lookup expressions can have an index, but literals can't. If we say x at y at z, what the parser is going to do is it's going to be, all right, well, there's an x. So x is a variable name. So a variable name is a lookup. Does it have an index? Yes, it does. It has x at what? What is the thing? It's y. Well, y is a lookup. What does a lookup have after it? Does it have a variable name? It's got an index. What's the thing after the index? Yeah, it's because when the parser sees a variable, it triggers the lookup behavior, which has support for indexing, whereas when the parser sees a digit, it kicks in the literal behavior, which doesn't have support for indexing. Yeah, I thought both ways would give the same thing. Well, if this one yielded an array lookup on 1 at 2, it would blow up, because you can't do that. There's no 1 at 2. Actually, there is, but we don't want to get into that. Whereas the other one, if that one yielded that behavior, then there wouldn't be any way of doing the other kind of array syntax in there. So what do we got here? We've got oh, look, I can do that. I mean, I could, yeah. All right. IKKL. Shatter row 2. Row 3 is MNOP. Shatter row 3. Rock grid with row 0. Row 1. All right, that didn't work. Why not? Yep, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. How long did it take me to write the initial Rockstar compiler? The first one was written in JavaScript in 2000 and end of 2019, beginning of 2020. It took about 3 weeks. This version, I ported the whole thing to .NET this summer. It took about 2-3 weeks of full-time work, which I was supposed to be on holiday, but I have no idea how to not Parser was trying to look up it. It should work, because it is a pronoun. Yeah, that's weird. That should work. Yeah. Yes, Parser said trying to look up it. And it there should be a pronoun. That should resolve. I don't know why it doesn't. Weird. Okay, never mind. Might be a bug. Foo is 1. Rock bar with it. Shout bar. Ooh. Yep. Well, that shouldn't break. Okay, that's interesting. You can't have a... Yeah, alright. Okay, fine, never mind. Foo is 1, shout it. If we parse that, output, look up it. Yeah, that works, but we can't rock stuff with it. I wonder whether that's because... that. Okay, we'll come back to that. I'm just going to stick an issue in for that. New issue. No, I think what's happening is that Rock is assigning the pronoun subject to be bar, uh, because the pronoun is updated on assignment, and so I think at that point that's basically equivalent to saying rock bar with bar, and so it's trying to put the array into itself. I think is what it's doing. Anyway, where were we? So I wanted to take a look at the language grammar again, and now in rockstar.peg, what we should be able to do here is to so lookup expression variable at index. So if we go back to our syntax and we have array at x at y versus array at 1 at 2, and we parse that, they're both kicking in as a lookup, but then, yeah, so what's happening is, why did you choose a grammar over a handwritten lexer and parser? Because I like grammars and they're easier to write, is why. That's it. That's it. The first incarnation of Rockstar I built using a parsing expression grammar for JavaScript, and quite enjoyed it, and it was a nice way to write an interpreter for a weird language like this. And so when I came to port it to .NET, I figured I'd see if I could do it with an expression parser, and yeah, it works. I could. So rabbit hole moment. Hang on, I've just noticed something that is bothering me. codewithrockstar.com/online.html, block of CSS at the top, image editor logo type, height 48, top 16, left 16. $48. Why, yes, I am that meticulous when it comes to lining stuff up. And that should be all right, that works. And yes, much better, right. Fix alignment and radius of logo type on editor page. Yeah, all right, so the question is, how do you force a lookup to fall back to the same syntax. So index is a numeric expression. And then a numeric expression can be a addition, yeah. And an addition can be a product, and a product can be a primary, and a primary can be a lookup. So that's where we get the loop. So we need to put a rule in that says that a could it be as simple as just saying that it can be a head index underscore by underscore tail indexes? See, I'm absolutely certain there's a way of doing this just by crunching the grammar so that it matches tokens in a slightly different way, and so you get a slightly different output from the parser. Because the interpreter already does everything we need. That's what's kind of weird about it, is we don't actually need the engine to do anything the engine can't already do. We just need to work out how to introduce a new kind of syntax and use that to create a new kind of structure, or use that to resolve language into an existing structure via a slightly different mechanism. So let me try that one. We're going to reload that page. We're going to parse that. And so that's array at x at y and array 1, 2. Array at x by y, array at x by 2, parse that, failed to parse program y. Should have worked. Unexpected array at column 1, line 1. Yep, okay. That's an array with a lookup with a simple variable. Index is something at numeric expression. Ah. Hmm. Hmm. All right. I'm going to put this one to bed, folks. I'm going to come back to this another time. This has been fun and entertaining, but we've done Advent of Code, and we've dived down the rabbit hole, and we've tweaked a couple of little bits and pieces, and it has been nearly 3 hours, and it is time I went and did something else for a little while. So, thank you for tuning in, folks. As always, it is always a delight hanging out with you, chat. And, yeah, enjoy, and I'll be back probably same time tomorrow to crank the handle one more time and knock out another pair of gold stars and then have some fun with Rockstar. All right.